Hey guys, today we're going to be working on Redis, which is another Redis machine. We're going to go ahead and start off with our Rust scan using -pn-sc-sb, and we have port 22, 80, and 6379, which is Redis. Also, port 80 shows we are running WordPress, so let's go ahead and do a WP scan. And I'm also going to add the API token. So I have found that this machine does not always work as intended. I had to reset this machine multiple times. There's supposed to be a plugin that shows up in the plugins section. So I'm going to go ahead and restart the machine and see if it shows up. So I went ahead and restarted the machine. And as you can see in the plugins section, this site editor plugin is vulnerable to LFI. So let's just go ahead and Google this. When we Google this, we will see a exploit DB exploit that comes up, and we see the proof of concept down here. Let's go ahead and copy that, and we're gonna go to port 80, and let's see if we can get this proof of concept to work. All right, so as you can see, we just from pasting this in, we were able to view the Etsy password file. And if we go over to Burp Suite, go to your history, we can see it in a cleaner format, and we see the user Alice. So let's go ahead and copy bin bash to see which users have a valid show. And we see it's only for Alice and root. So let's go ahead and try to read some other files. Upon Googling, I tried to find where the WordPress root file was, the wp-config file.php, but a lot of the results weren't very helpful. Let's go to Hactrix and let's search for Redis. And let's click on pen testing Redis. And we can see we can start enumeration from mmap. So pretty much I just started reading this from top to bottom. So we can go ahead and try to connect to the Redis CLI using this command right here. So redis-cli-h to set the host, and then you put the IP address. And down here you can see that it says by default Redis can be accessed without credentials, but it says sometimes it can be configured to only support username and password. So let's go ahead and connect to that Redis CLI, and then we put our IP address, and let's try the info command to see if we can get some info on the version. And it says no authentication required. So that means that we need to find some credentials. And all of this stuff, see, this is authenticated enumeration, dumping the database. So in order to dump the database, we need credentials. And then we make our way down here. And you can see the Redis rogue server. But this is for version 5.0.5 and below, but we don't know the version number. And I can tell you right now, it doesn't work straight out of the box for this machine. And then we make our way down to the PHP web shell. So let's go ahead and give this a try. Let's see if we can config anything. So let's set config set directory. And let's try to use the dev CHM directory. Dev/shm is used for temporary file storage, so it is usually world writable. So let's try that first. And we still get no authentication required. Alright, so let's go back to our LFI vulnerability. And since we couldn't find the WP config file, let's try to find the Redis configuration file. Okay, let's try to see if this is available. That does not work. Let's find something else. Let's do Linux. Etsy, Redis, redis.conf. Alright, so we see a configuration file. Let's see if we see the version. And let's search for some passwords. So let's do pass. And we see 9 matches for pass. Let's go down. Oh, right here. Require pass. Ready for Redis, question mark. Let's see if this works. So then if we go back to hack tricks, in order to authenticate, we use auth and then the username and password. So let's do auth and then this password. And it says, okay, so we are authenticated. So now let's see if the reverse shell works. So let's configure set dir dev shm. Okay, now we're going to set a PHP reverse shell, but don't use this one. We're going to Google PHP CMD one-liner, and we're going to find this CSP Shivam web shells repo. Let's go click on that, and I went ahead and used this one right here. Set test parentheses and close the parentheses. Okay, and now we do save. So it looks like I missed a step. I need to config set db file name. We can do redis.php. And let's see if that works, or if I need to set the contents of the file again. Now we need to set the path to dev chm. Now we need to append the redis.php and cmd equals, let's do cat plus, so that did not work. Let's do id, see if that works. Okay, that did not work. Alright, so I'm gonna go back and reconfigure this the correct way. So as you can see, you have to configure the directory, then configure the file name, and then configure the contents of the file, and then you save it. So here you can see, once I put the command back in and fix my file, we are authenticated as Alice. So we have remote code execution as the user Alice. So earlier we should have checked to see if there were any SSH files because we're Alice. So let's do cat plus home alice.ssh. Now we're gonna check for authorized keys, and it doesn't seem to be any authorized keys there. So at this point, since we have RCE, we can just put in a rev shell. So let's go to revshells.com and let's try netcat mk50. Let's set this to bin bash, set the encoding to URL encoding, and we need to set our IP address as our ton0 address and set the port to something that's open, so either 80 or 22. And we're going to copy this, go over to Burp Suite, paste that in. Now we need to set our netcat listener, RL wrap netcat port 22, and go ahead and start. As you can see, we get a reverse show. Let's go ahead and use our post exploit Python to set the environment. All right. Looks like I typed something wrong there. Now we have a shell. So the first thing we check for is sudo-l. We have nothing. Now let's look for suets. Nothing interesting there. Let's check for cron tabs. So cat etc cron tab. And it looks like there's a cron tab that runs every 3 minutes and it's running as root. So let's check this backups file. And it looks like we have a wildcard privilege escalation path. It's changing to the var www html directory. Then it's using the if statement. If find any files that have been modified within the last 3 minutes, then use the tar command to archive those files that are in and paste them in op backups website.tar. Okay, so we are going to cd to var www html. So pretty much tar has a feature called checkpoint actions, which will execute commands during the process. And since the process is running as root, we will run a command that will generate a bash script that will make us run as root. Let's echo a bin bash and output the file as shell.sh. And now we're going to set our first checkpoint. Now we're going to set our second checkpoint. Now we need to wait for 3 minutes for the script to execute. So if we read the checkpoint command, it is telling, so once the tar command runs, up here we see we created this shell.sh file. So once the checkpoint runs, it's going to execute the command to run the shell.sh file. And the shell.sh file is changing the permissions to the bin bash file. So we, as a standard user, Alice, will be able to run bin bash, and then that will give us a root shell. And when you run +s on a file, it gives it suet permissions. So let's try to run bin bash -p. Let's use our Python command again to stabilize our shell. All right, so I don't think the machine has Python 3, so I needed to use the regular Python to stabilize my shell. And once I run bin bash -p, as you can see, it spawns a root shell. And now we can cd root and we get the proof.txt. Thanks for watching.